All right, now for adding color, I'm just playing with effects within Photoshop. And what I did is I added a full bleed white layer behind my illustration. But I got that perfect cutout of the silhouette by using the vector to make a selection, to make a cookie cutter of it, right? And then filled it in with white because I like how that looks better than without it, right? In fact, I might even like what that looks like black. So I might resave my black and white one without the color effects. That's what's so cool. You can just turn them on and off. Turn off the background and then resave this as a PNG. Because if you've done your vector well, it's versatile. You can use it in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
So now that's filled in with white, right? Okay, so that's the easiest way to add color. Not only can you add color in Photoshop, you can also add, and some of you are playing with this, you can add texture, right? And you can set how strong that texture is. And that will emboss it and bevel it. You know, so it looks like it's a little bit three-dimensional. That can be fun. You can add like satin effects. You can add inner glow. And you have full control of all of the opacities, all of the blending modes for all of these things. You can use dissolve and different opacities to make it look a little bit more vintage and broken up. So just so many options for you. I have no idea what's the right option for what you want to do, right? Only you can know that. So, but that is the easy way to add color. And once you're happy with that color solution, you might as well save that. So save as Karl assignment 6 color logo, still with an offset, because I still need it to show up on a variety of backgrounds, light and dark. So first I save that as a PSD file. And if I really want to see the options, I might make a new background that I fill with black. And if it looks good on, as a designer, if it looks good on black, if it looks good on gray, and it looks good on white, then you've got yourself a versatile logo, right? Because then it will look good on any color. But I want you to turn all of those off before you save it as a PNG and upload it to PhotoBucket. But there are other ways to add color. You can add color within Illustrator. So the vector itself has color in it. And for logos, sometimes that makes the most sense, right? And there are a lot of coloring tools within Illustrator, but they are different than Photoshop. So I need to go to my EPS, open it with Illustrator, and I am going to make a duplicate of my black one by selecting everything, copying it, Command-C, locking it, making a new layer, selecting on the new layer, and saying Edit, Paste in Place, and then turning off the one behind it. Now, just like I can do in Photoshop, I can change the color of the whole thing from black to whatever color I want. But I chose red, but look what happened. It didn't change it to red. It changed it to the value equivalent of red. That's because I live traced this. And when you live trace, Illustrator tries to help you out by limiting its functions, because there are so many functions. So when you live trace as a silhouette, it only allows you to use grayscale. So how do we get out of that? Instead, I take this copy and I say File, New Illustrator file. So I'm not live tracing something. And I'm going to choose a print file. And honestly, it doesn't matter. It can be letter size. Let's do that, because the size of the paper doesn't matter. And then I paste in my vector, and then I can shrink it to whatever artboard is necessary. But again, that artboard doesn't matter. And now if I just choose a different color. It should give me the full color. All right, this has happened to me before. Sometimes you have to trick it. So, because it's gotten used to not doing color, so I have to go up to the swatches and actually pick the color from there. And now it will do color because it's forced to. Okay, so you can do solid colors that way of existing shapes. But what if you want the background to be a different color? So I have red as my shape now, but what if I want behind it to be, oh, it's going to be hideous, the green. It's going to be the Christmas themed logo. Okay, so what I do is I make a new layer. And I lock the original layer. And then what I'm going to use is my pencil tool. And I am just going to roughly draw. I'm just using my mouse here. It's nice that I have that thick outline. It's like stained glass. I'm going to make a big shape behind everything. And sometimes it's easier just to do this. Make a big shape behind everything, close it, and then choose a color for that path. Okay. Then move that layer behind your original layer. And then, of course, I have the original layer locked. I can redraw it so it fits behind. So instead of just black shapes, now you can use varying colored shapes layered on top of each other, like stacks of paper. And I would do a different layer for each one. So in between the green and the red, I can make white. You can't assume white, right? You have to make it. And I can fill that with solid white. And I can fill this one with solid white. And you can get as complex as you want. Now, not only can you fill with solid colors, you can also fill with gradients. So let's take this green, and instead of just a solid color, I am going to use the gradient options, which you can find under Window. And instead of just a white and black gradient, because I've colored now, I have these different options for gradient. So let's do the orange-yellow, but it doesn't have to be orange-yellow, though that's kind of cool. This bird is on fire.
You got to do a blue because it's Twitter.
Yeah, but if I wanted to go more Twitter, so what do? I can change these colors just like you can in Photoshop. And you can customize it, get rid of them, play with their angle. It's just a slightly different interface.
That looks like the gradient tool in Photoshop.
It is. It's almost identical. It's just a slightly different interface. Now, what I like about it is that not only can you play with the gradients, you can do this in Photoshop too, but it has a lot more clear significance here. Like you can set them at an angle. So that's kind of nice. I don't know. And you can play with this endlessly. But you can also set an opacity. Yeah, I like that. So you can set an opacity. So if I want the green to come, or if I want part of this to be more transparent and it lets the white of this background come through, or any background it's on, I can take one of those colors, like this one, and I can set its opacity lower. So let's look how that changes. So now I'm going to take that whole design and select it all with the white eyes included and move it off to the gray. And what you'll notice is that the blue here changes. You see how it's really bright there? And how it's, oops, I need to redo. And how it's dull there. And that's because it's actually letting the gray through. So this is more like watercolor coloring. And let's say I want to do something really weird, and I want to take that red, and I want to fill it with a gradient, but I want its gradient to be more straightforward. Maybe add in a slight color in there. Okay, but I want the bottom of it, which is white, I want that to be only 10% opaque. See how spooky that looks? Now on a white background, that will look differently. It will, let's see, select everything, move it onto the white background, and it looks like it's almost faded out completely, which looks kind of cool. So you have a lot of different ways you can play with it. There are even like pattern fills you can use. You can layer up multiple gradients, so I can make a duplicate of this, just like we did with our sky. And I can make a new layer, and I can paste it in place. And I can fill that with slightly different colors and at a different angle, and make the whole thing less opaque. Just so the colors are a little less digital looking and look more complicated. And if I want, I can make a duplicate of just the line work at the top, make a new layer, paste it in place, and just fill that with a solid. Maybe I just do a solid black. And then I can play with just the opacity of that whole shape under transparency and let some of those complex colors come through. That's a nice kind of Halloween edition, right? Now, the problem is I probably want that to be filled in with white too. So again, how do you put color behind it? I have to go to a layer behind. That's my white shape layer. I have to draw it with the pencil tool. This is a pain. There's no magic wand that just selects the inside. Let's see if there is. No, there is not. I've not played much with the magic wand in Illustrator. So no, you can't use it that way to select empty space. So instead, I have to use the pencil tool and draw the shape I want underneath the outlines that I have. And then fill that new cutout, just like stacking paper, with the color I desire. In this case, white, or maybe a slight gradient. So maybe this one, you can set each different path at a different angle. I'm going to do it at a slightly different angle. There we go. I don't want it to be so dark. And I want it to be a little bit brighter, a little bit longer. So I'll add one here. I'll brighten that up. Change the angle again. You can also type in the angle. Let's do 42. Let's do something more extreme, 60. Let's do reverse 60. Let's do reverse 135. There we go. So it doesn't matter to me, because I don't think it matters professionally very much, if you decide to color it in Illustrator or in Photoshop. As long as your black and white shaped logo is a vector, it has all this versatility. And it has all these options for later. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer and paste it in. I know I'm showing you a lot very quickly. And I'm going to reverse the gradient on it. So it's a black and white gradient, but I'm going to move the black to one side and the white to the other. And then I'm going to play with the transparency of this to show all those layers underneath. And then, this is kind of my favorite coloring tool in Illustrator. Those whites of the eyes now look really bland, really boring. Let me show it to you on gray background. If everything else is gradated and colored, even the